Okay, so we're going to talk about exponents today. Exponents is the first part of this unit. You may remember that we talked about exponents before in the beginning of the year. We're going to review a little bit about that, and then we're going to add in some rational numbers, meaning some fractions and some decimals. So your goal for today is that I can write expressions in exponential, in expanded, and in standard form. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you recall, there are three ways to write exponents. So the first way is called standard form. And in standard form, all they're asking you for is for the answer to the problem. So over here, you have a base of 9, and you have an exponent of 2. 9 to the second power means 9 times 9, and 9 times 9 is 81. So that's your answer. The second way to write exponents is in expanded form. So when you think of expanded, you think of stretching something out, and that's all you're doing. So again, if I give you the base of 9 and an exponent of 2, all I'm asking you to do is to stretch it out. 9 times 9. If this was an exponent of 3, you would write 9 times 9 times 9. Last but not least, we have exponential form. The root of the word exponential is exponent, and so that's going to be required in your answer. You have a base of 9 and you have an exponent of 2, and that's all there is to exponential form, your base and your exponent. Let's start by reviewing with just some basic whole numbers, and then we can add in some rational numbers. So here we have 4 to the third power, and we're being asked to write it in expanded form. So we take our base, which is 4. We see that our exponent is 3, so we multiply it times itself 3 times. And that's your answer for expanded form. It just wants you to expand it out. Next we have standard form. So with standard form, remember that we're being asked to give the answer to the problem. So we had 4 times 4 times 4, and we need to find the answer to this. So 4 times 4 is 16. Times the last 4, that's going to give us 64. So the answer to 4 to the third power in standard form is 64. Last but not least, we have exponential form. Remember, with exponential form, it wants us to give an exponent. So our base is 4, and 4 is being multiplied times itself once, twice, and 3 times. So the exponent is 3. One more quick review with whole numbers. So here we have 8 to the second power, and it wants it in expanded form. So our base is 8, and over here our exponent is 2, so I'm going to expand it twice, once and twice. And that's all there is to expanded form. Now we move on to standard form. Remember, standard form is going to ask us for the answer to the problem. So if 8 to the second power means 8 times 8, then my answer is 64. Just like the last one. Last but not least, we have exponential form again. So our base is 8, and 8 is being multiplied times itself once and twice. So our exponent is 2. We're going to move on and get a little bit more complicated here, but it's not too bad. So we're going to use some fractions with expanded, standard, and exponential form. The first thing that you're going to notice is that I have a fraction, and it's being hugged by these parentheses. The reason why it's a good habit to write your fractions in parentheses when you have an exponent is because sometimes this exponent could get lost in the numerator, and it would look like 13 over 2 instead of 1/2 to the third power. When you put your parentheses there, it really separates the exponent from the fraction. So we're going to go ahead and write this in expanded form. So we're going to have our base. Our exponent is 3, so I need to multiply times itself once, twice, and 3 times. And you'll see that I continued my habit of using the parentheses. You can use parentheses with whole numbers as well, and you can also use them with decimals. Alright, so now let's look at this in standard form. So just right over there we had 1/2, times 1/2 times 1/2. Remember, standard form is asking us to give the answer to the problem. All we have to do is multiply this straight across. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So my answer in standard form for 1/2 to the third power is 1/8. Last but not least, we have exponential form, so we're looking for the exponent. So my base is 1/2, and it's being multiplied times itself once, twice, and 3 times for an exponent of 3, and that's your answer there. Let's try with some decimals. So here we have 1.8 to the second power, so it wants us to write it in expanded form. So I'm going to have my base of 1.8, and since it's to the second power, we multiply it times itself twice. So once and twice for expanded form. For standard form, remember we're looking for the answer to the problem. So you're going to take your expanded form and you're actually going to have to solve it. So we have 1.8 times 1.8. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 6 is 14. Cross out the 8 and add our 0 placeholder. 1 times 8 is 8, and 1 times 1 is 1. And when you add all these up, you're going to get 4, 12, and 3. Don't forget your decimal. You have 2 numbers after the decimal in your original problem, so you have to move them 2 over here. So my final answer is 3.24 for standard form. Last but not least, we have exponential form. So our base is 1.8. It's being multiplied times itself once and twice. So my exponent is 2. Make that look like a 2. All right. One important note before we try on our own. Any number that is to the power of 0 is going to equal 1. It does not matter if it's a whole number, a fraction, or a decimal. If the exponent is to the 0 power, your answer is going to be 1. It could be a huge number, a small number, a positive number, a negative number. Anytime it's to the 0 power, your answer is going to be 1. All right, so you try these out, and I will write the answers as well. Note that the first one we're going to try out is expanded form. So all you have to do is take these 2 numbers, let me add my parentheses here, and write them out in expanded form. Alright, so your answer should look a little bit something like mine. Up here I have 2.45 to the 6th power. You'll notice that I used dots instead of the traditional multiplication sign. If you recall from earlier in the year, that's another way to show multiplication. I put them in parentheses just so that they were easier to count up when I was reviewing my answer, but you do not have to put them in parentheses. Over here, I have 3/5 to the 4th power, so I expanded it out 4 times. It is a good habit to write your fractions in parentheses, and I just used the traditional multiplication sign here. All right, let's try some exponential form now. So in exponential form, remember that we're looking for an exponent. So you solve it, and I will as well. All right, we have our answer 19.8 to the 5th power and 1 3/8 to the 6th power. That's how many times it's being multiplied times itself in the original problem. Last but not least, we're going to try some standard form. So remember, in standard form, we're looking for the answer to the problem. We have 2.5 to the 3rd power, and we have 2/3 to the 4th power. I will solve, and you solve as well. All right, so I have my two answers. For the first problem, I multiplied 2.5 times itself 3 times, and my answer was 15.625. The second problem was 2 over 3 to the fourth power, and the answer to that was 16 over 81. When you are doing fractions in standard form, you are still required to simplify your answer. 16 over 81 is as simplified as it gets. That is the end of this lesson. If you have any questions, remember that you can rewind, fast forward, pause, and you can always ask me in class.